I think that's the important thing though, right, is that we talk about kids with ITP, we talk about adults with ITP, and there's this young adult adolescence group that we sort of get stuck in the middle. They're not kids, but they're not adults. Sort of how do we deal with them? And it can get a little bit messy for them specifically as well. Welcome to Beyond the Count. I'm founder and CEO of ITP Australia and New Zealand, and your host, Danielle Boyle. This is a space created for the ITP community by the ITP community, where we share real stories, expert insights, and everything in between. Whether you're living with immune thrombocytopenia, supporting someone who is, or just curious about what life looks like beyond the bruises and the blood tests, you're in the right place. So whether you're driving, out for a walk, folding the laundry, or just sitting back and tuning in, let's dive in and go beyond the count. In this episode of Beyond the Count, I'm joined by Professor Nichola Cooper, Medical Advisor for the UK ITP Support Association and haematologist at the Imperial College of London, along with Dr. Alice Hart, Doctoral Clinical Research Fellow in Non-Malignant Haematology and haematologist at the Imperial College of London, and Mervyn Morgan, CEO of the ITP Support Association for the UK and Ireland, and member of the International ITP Alliance Management Board. Today, we'll be talking about the ITP Support Association's resource, ITP and Me, a teen guide for living with ITP. This one-of-a-kind book was created with teens, for teens, giving young people a voice and helping them feel less alone in their ITP journey. We explore how the project came together, why it matters, and the difference it's already making for teenagers and their families. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. We've got Mervyn, Nikki and Alice all here with us from the UK. This is so exciting. This is such an exciting book and it's such an exciting resource, guys. Thank you so much for doing all of the hard work.
Oh, pleasure. I think we enjoyed doing it as well, didn't we? It was a kind of fun project to do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really rewarding to do, actually. Yeah.
So what was the initial inspiration, for creating this book specifically just for teens?
Sure. Well, it sort of came out of some work I did during my PhD. So I did I was a haematology registrar and then got really interested in ITP and pediatric ITP, and then did a PhD with Nichola. And some of the work through that was looking at quality of life and doing some kind of cognitive testing and fatigue testing and that sort of thing as well. And we found that actually it's really the teens that are particularly affected and have particularly worse quality of life. Both having ITP as a teenager and being diagnosed as a teenager were worse. So we thought, what can we do that's a really kind of tangible, helpful thing that will be available to everybody and to try and make their lives a little bit easier? And the other kind of flip side of that was also we found that a really significant proportion of parents of teens with ITP have significantly reduced quality of life from, having the worry about their children. So we kind of thought if we do a book, then the teenagers can read it, the rest of the family can read it, siblings, friends, and also the parents. It will be there for them as well. And then we sort of started talking to some of the patients who'd taken part in my study and asked them if they thought it would be a good idea, and they were really positive about it. And that's kind of where it sprang from.
Wow, that's exciting.
And I think to add to that as well, I think teenage ITP is actually really uncommon. And we see that from the registry data too. It's not a common thing. And I think, Alice, your work really highlighted that it's very different from the under 10s. So I don't think pediatricians see as much teenage ITP either. And trying to get the word out there as to the problems and issues they have felt like approaching, going directly to the patient so they can feel more informed, be helpful, and they can give it to the doctors looking after them as well. So it's a way of kind of bringing news out to other people, who may not see very much of this disease, I think, really.
And I think that the issues that the teenagers face are different to the ones that, younger kids at school or nursery where it's really the parents making all the decisions, but that's not the case once they get a little bit older. And it's not the same as adults either. So we really wanted to do something specifically for that age bracket.
Sorry, and being a teen too, like it's already yuck. Hormones and, all of these other things happening.
So much going on.
And I think
There was a gap in the market though, because the resources we had for young people, not just call them young people, were probably 10 years old. Nikki, I think, probably 10 years old, needed updating. And all of the inquiries we get at the office are not from teenagers or children. They're mainly from parents, right, who worried to death about this. And so, hence, this book isn't just for teenagers, it's also for the parents. Step by step, it identifies them, what any potential problems are, what the kids are going through. So it was good. It was really good.
And I thought it was good. We got Amanda Lee, who's a writer for teenagers, to be involved, and she got involved right from the very beginning. So Alice did a patient event day to discuss her research, and Amanda came to that event. I learned a lot from that because she spoke directly to the teenagers, and they said things to her that they didn't really talk to us about either. It was a much more informal setting. They were chatting to each other, and she was great at getting them to talk and about the issues that they had. And I think Amanda's had kids too, so I think it just gave a non-medical approach to it as well, which I think you could hear in the book, which is just from, really is from the patients. And I think it's got a light-hearted touch, I think, that's not a medical book, I think.
Because I do believe this was actually one of the first medical books that the man had done, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
Back catalogue was on Second World War and space travel and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. But she knows how to communicate, which you should do not necessarily good at communicating, I think.
And I think that's the important thing, though, right? Is that we talk about kids with ITP, we talk about adults with ITP, and there's this young adult adolescence group that we sort of get stuck in the middle. They're not kids, but they're not adults. Sort of, how do we deal with them? And it can get a little bit messy for them specifically as well. Mum and dad, still cotton wool, wanting to make sure that their kids are safe, but the kids are sort of going, Mum, get off,
And actually, one of the things I found quite interesting as well, giving the books now that we're giving them to the teenagers or young adults, that one of them is that I'm going to give this to my boyfriend, or I'm going to give this to my friends, because, and Mervyn, you must hear this, and Danielle, you must have this the whole time, is that one of the things I think people with ITP find difficult is no one knows about ITP. Nobody's, you're not getting any sympathy or any kind of help or support from people because they just don't know what it is. So I think that was another nice thing about it. You can give it to your school, your friends, your family, people, I think.
yeah.
Plus the facts that leave that for another, potential plus point of this. We always get messages from schools and, can you tell me about ITP? They've got this young child doing, maybe when I send out the school packs, send a copy of this out as well. So, yeah.
It's a really good idea. And it can end up in the school library too, potentially.
That's a great idea, isn't it?
I can see a short film in this. Can you? Is it just me, or even
Definitely.
Get the kids get the teens involved, like a high school film class, maybe getting involved and getting around and as somebody with ITP and having these discussions. I think that could be really cool.
What about show and tell, Alice? What about your kids? How would that be?
Yeah, no, something like that would be great. A little project for them.
So how did you guys make sure that the voice and the tone and the information really reflected, the audience, the teens?
Well, in the book, if you notice, all the bits that are in speech bubbles are direct quotes from patients with ITP. So the text is kind of me and Nichola and the author. And then the speech bubbles are direct quotes from patients. So I think just having literally their words, no filter, no editing, makes it speak from teens to other teens. And they say things that just you can even hear their character through what they say. So I think that was a really nice addition. And then in terms of how we got the tone, I think Amanda was really good at that. She's got teenage kids, hasn't she? Yeah. Which really helps. And to be honest, some of the advice is just good for teenagers in general, general life advice. But we wanted to keep it positive and lighthearted and uplifting, but also to address the important questions.
And I think as talking about the sort of the text, so we did get a psychiatrist, a psychologist to review it, and we had some of our nurses to review it. And it was really interesting because they were concerned about some of the words, but we were like, well, this is the words they're using. This is important, to actually have their voices. We shouldn't be sanitizing that or making it, so we were careful with it. So we did get people to review it to make sure we were not saying things that would create anxiety. But at the same time, we really wanted to get their voice, I think, across.
And that's, I think, something that, in the ITP space, we all do really, really well, is that we make sure the patient voice is heavily incorporated into, regardless of what sort of stage or what sort of, what age the people are in, we try and, make sure that we fold that into everything that we do. It's something that I suppose that we pride ourselves on. And
I think the other interesting aspect of it is we had, with Mervyn's help, two of the advocates from the ITP Support Association who are now in their early 20s. So they've kind of just come out the other end, and so could say, actually, when I was diagnosed or when I was 15, 16, these were the things that really affected me. So I hope we kind of covered the spread of it. So we had people that are going through it now, in the thick of the teenage years. And then we also had those two advocates who could kind of, come out and say, actually, this would have been really useful to me back then. Or if I'd known this then, I would have had this, that would have made my life easier.
I think too, the other really interesting thing about this book is that it's also apt for preteens before they, transition through. So they could read it, or they've got it ready to go, and then they start to transition through and they go, oh, I remember I've got that book, or they've got that memory recall. And I think that could be really helpful too.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the kids was 9, I think, wasn't she? So one of the kids who
she was 9 or 10, yeah.
And it was, I think so she was there with the discussion as well with all the other teens. She didn't say anything, but I think it was just sort of, I agree with you, Danielle. I think that was sort of, okay, this might happen to me later, but it's going to be all right. And I feel like that's one of the really important things we wanted to try and get across. It's going to be okay. There's things you're going to have to adapt to in life. Might not be exactly what you wanted to do, but it's going to be okay. And also try to just remind people to talk to their doctors. I think certainly I remember one of our patients who was told not to paintball when she was diagnosed, and she's got a normal cap now, but she still wasn't paintballing. So there are things that we forget that we've said. So just hoping to encourage people to talk to their doctors and say, can I still not do that? Or is it okay to do this now? And, I'm not sure we just forget to say it. We assume they're doing normal things. So just reminding them to say to the doctor, it's really important for me to do football. It's really important for me to dance. It's really important, because those things make a difference to our treatment. And, not being quiet about it, really sort of raising your voice, I think, is important.
I think that's also especially true if you end up looked after somewhere that's less used to seeing teenagers with ITP, because they may be a bit more restrictive on what, just from a point of view of trying to keep people safe. But actually, with a bit of empowerment, hopefully from this book, they can say, look, in this book, there's actually, I can go traveling. These are just the things that I need to be aware of, or I can do this, that, and the other, but, just maybe with a couple of adaptations or something like that.
Is it something too? I know that in the UK specifically, you guys use the Ready, Set, Go. Can the book be woven into that potentially from a not a treatment, but a planning process as they navigate through that path?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, actually, isn't it? It's kind of, and it would be good to be mandatory in a way, wouldn't it? Everyone should read the book. All doctors should read the book and recognize, because I think that's another critical thing. It's like, do you know that teenagers, only 50% are going to go into remission, not 80 or 90%. So having no treatment and not doing anything about your low count for 6 months is a really, really big deal for a teenager who might be playing competitive sport. So I think doctors need to recognize that a lot of them won't go into remission. So treating people is okay, and treating people to have a normal life and get back to the activities they want is okay. So I think for me, that was also an important thing to be able to get through, that treatment is all right, and you might need treatment, and that's okay.
Thanks to our sponsor Sobi for their ongoing support of ITP Australia and New Zealand and our podcast Beyond the Count.
And the other thing too is we've got these is pediatric and we've got the adult things like guidelines. Is it time maybe to even consider, for those clinicians that don't treat ITP as often as, say, yourselves, is it maybe having not necessarily guidelines, but, some sort of discussion paper that's published out there that can even accompany something like this that refers back to the book and vice versa?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, actually. I think it's because I think what's hard with guidelines is there's no evidence base. There is no data.
No.
Or what treatment is the right treatment for teenagers, or what's going to put you into remission. So we need to work on that. We do need, I think that the ITP fields do work well together. So we need to be working on those kind of things. But I agree, just a helping guidelines. And I think that in the absence of that, that's where I thought the book would be useful for doctors too. And just to pull people back and say, this is a different disease actually. And not just about the ITP, but the people, the kids, they're different. What they're going through is very different. And I think sometimes teenagers can be quite scary for doctors and parents. And so just hearing their voice, I thought was really important. They're not scary people at all. People can feel scared about them, but they're not. They're just going through that teenage thing, I think.
Yeah, with an extra layer of sprinkling of ITP on top.
I think, that's just what I was going to add, actually, is that if you think at that stage of life, all the important decisions that you're making, all the exams which might inform your future career, and all those crucial life events that you go through towards the end of being a teenager, you just want to make sure that everyone reaches their potential and can do what they want to do, not be held back.
I think the other thing too is to remember, and this is something that I suppose I used to tell my kids, especially during those years, is that I can guarantee you will not be laying there at 70 going, I remember when I did that one exam and I was so stressed about it. Like, it's about putting everything into context as well, and you'll get through it. It's all good, but it feels so intense as you're navigating through it, though. So you'll get through it. Promise.
I think that's right. And I guess that's the other part for the book, to not feel quite so lonely. There are other people going through this too. So it's kind of, and I think, Mervyn, your lovely young advocates, how did they feel about the book? What was their comments?
Both of them absolutely loved the book. They were so pleased to be a tiny part of it, but they really loved it. They wish that they'd had this type of resource on when they was going through that stage, and they would be the perfect people to actually use in any future publicity about the book.
Yeah.
Really good, really good.
And a good advocate for you can get through it and it's okay, isn't it? You know, here are some people in their 20s who got through it and it's okay. You can do your
Actually came out the other side. Yeah.
I think the advocates will be spot on for, really helping lead and navigate and, really enhance this book. Not that it needs any help. 600 copies already. Oh my goodness. But I think that, I really think that, they can definitely give it the like a giant push in the right direction and help it get in the hands of so many more people. So what kind of feedback have you guys received since launching the book? You've spoken to, I suppose, those advocates, etc. But have you had any feedback from patients?
Yes, I've had feedback where patients have actually written to me, have asked for copies. I've sent them copies, but that they come back and basically the parents. This is the parents of the patients have come back and said, "I wish we had had this when my daughter or son was first diagnosed, because it answered so many questions and it put so many things in its boxes, basically, and it makes understanding what they're going through so much easier to understand as well, which is good." The other really good feedback we've had is the amount of healthcare professionals around the country who have come back and said they've seen it. Could we have some copies, please? We need more copies and all that, which is absolutely brilliant. Over the moon with it. So, yeah.
What was the initial print run? I think it was about 1,000?
2,000 I got.
2,000. So you're already a quarter of the way through.
I think the colours mattered too, didn't they? So I think we did put a lot of effort into deciding colours and things.
The cover, and also I have to bow down to Amanda on this, also the paper quality as well. And it works.
I think it was amazing, wasn't it? I think Amanda project managed it, didn't she?
Yeah.
She kept us on track, kept us, and Alice, you found the illustrator. So you chose the illustrator based on what your kids liked,
Yeah.
So,
we were struggling to find someone. I think Amanda had maybe asked a couple of people that she knew and hadn't found anyone. So we were struggling. And I thought, well, my oldest is 8 at home, so I've got loads of books at home. I thought I'm literally going to look through the bookshelves and see whose drawings I like and that would work for that kind of positive, cheerful, but really, good detail as well. Because some of it, there's like blood cells and platelets and things, isn't there? And then I found that this lady called Amy Grimes, and she's in her 20s as well, so she's not that much older than these patients either. And then Amanda just contacted her, and thankfully she was really happy to do it.
It's Amanda, and Amy who pulled together
the
A team.
Yeah, weren't they? And I think there were lots of little things that they thought about or did that we did about, which I think it makes it a more visually appealing kind of product, doesn't it? Sort of makes it nice to have in their hands. So yeah.
What was good was the technical aspects of the layouts, etc., and all that. It all flows. It works beautifully.
Yeah. The other thing I was just going to say, if you transport, we've kind of tried to go for like reds and purples because it's the colour of the support association, but it's also the kind of colours of red blood cells and platelets when you look on a blood film. So it all, thought about everything.
Someone else did say that to me as well. So seems good.
I do like that, and I. Leading back to the things like the print quality, it is really important. Having something that's nice to touch and feel, it creates that muscle memory and goes, I remember that experience as well, because it becomes a complete experience. It's not about a whole lot of pages stapled together and sort of becoming a paperweight. Is a tangible, useful book, which I think is beautiful too.
Yeah, and I guess all of the pictures of the symptoms as well, which is really good. Yeah. So we were umming and ahhing whether to do photos or drawings. So she actually did these beautiful drawings of petechiae, purpura, and hematomas.
Very good.
And I think it's that communication with young people too, isn't it? That's why having a professional, someone who's written books before, who's done that kind of thing, understands those things are important and knows what works, what doesn't work, sort of what we don't know, those things.
That's good. So on that topic, Alice, what's the one thing that you take away from this book now that it's done, it's published? What's your most memorable takeaway?
From the process of doing the book?
Yeah.
I think it was just always remembering to ask the patients what they want, what they think, what's useful to them, rather than us projecting it onto them, and trying to put yourself in their shoes and think, we were umming and ahhing whether to put some stuff about fertility in, like what sort of age should you be thinking about pregnancy and fertility and that kind of thing. But actually it's often on their mind. It's not necessarily something they're planning, but it's often them thinking, well, does this mean I can't have children, or, that kind of thing. But they might be too scared to ask, or scared that if they ask, that we'll project something onto them, that they're thinking about having a family when they're not necessarily. They're just worried about their future. So I think it was that, just in making sure you're involved, making sure you ask them what they want, and not shying away from the trickier topics.
What about you, Nikki? What's your takeaway?
So the visual part of it, I think, was much more important than I realized, and it is a really beautiful book to hold and to look at, and that makes a difference, that you've got something that you can actually want to look at. So it's not just a pamphlet that's a medical document. So making it that accessible. And I think I learned a lot about that and the process of putting the whole project management of putting a book together. It's not easy. It does take a lot of time, and you need someone who knows what they're doing in order to do that. And, we do need to find different ways to communicate. And I think particularly for teenagers, communicating with them and their language, I think, is really important for them as well.
And you, Mervyn, what's your takeaway?
My one takeaway is, apart from the visual side of it, is what is this going to lead to? Because I honestly believe, I know we've talked about it, Nikki, as well. This is highlighted to us. There is a need for a further book for parents and carers of those.
Totally. Yeah.
Right, just so it can, be an addendum, if you like. So this, but would support, people in that position.
Yeah.
That will happen. It's got to happen.
I can already see a series of books.
Yeah.
There's books on adult ITP for the kids. There's kids ITP for the small kids.
Yeah.
There's all of these different little volumes.
Yeah.
And you put them all together.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. Like the Penguin series of the Amanda Lee series of.
Yeah, I can definitely see all of that. Definitely see all of that. Get ready, guys.
And a slightly different colour coordination. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we have a different colour spine, we can have the rainbow too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I've really loved talking and chatting with you guys today. Again, such a stellar book. When I was reading it, I was blown away with how eloquently simple it was. And it wasn't like you were talking at teens. You were talking with them and to them. And I think it's a beautiful resource. I think you've done an absolutely stellar job, and I highly commend you all on the amount of work and effort that's gone into it. And watch this space, because hopefully in the near future we can have it here in Australia as well, with a couple of little tiny tweaks, and in New Zealand, and who knows, Amazon.
Yeah.
Maybe here we come. And watch this space, people. Watch this space. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me today. Before we wrap up, here are some key takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, resources made by teens for teens matter. Hearing directly from teenagers with ITP makes the content in this book relatable and reassuring for young people facing the same challenges. Number 2, support comes in many forms. Books like ITP and Me are not just about information, but also about showing young people that they are not alone and that others truly understand what they are going through. Number 3, collaboration strengthens our resources. By working together internationally, patient organisations and medical experts can create meaningful resources that have an impact far beyond just one country. Number 4, accessing this book. Visit our website to learn more about this resource and how you can access it for you and your family. A big thank you to Professor Nichola Cooper, Dr. Alice Hart and Mervyn Morgan for sharing their insights, and congratulations on the incredible work in developing and creating ITP and Me. If you're looking for support, connection or information, visit itpanz.org.au. You'll find The Count, our quarterly magazine, patient stories, treatment information sheets, clinical guidelines and a wide range of resources designed to help you and your family feel informed and supported. Most importantly, you'll know that you're not alone. There's a whole community here just waiting for you. If this episode was helpful, please share it with others in the ITP community and leave us a review on your podcast platform. It helps more people find Beyond the Count. We've got more expert conversations, patient stories and more coming soon. So hit the follow or subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for listening as we go beyond the count together.